They're not involved in sort of street stick-ups.
Right, right.
So the average individual is probably never going to feel their presence in their neighborhood unless they're dealing drugs. If you're dealing drugs in a neighborhood that they have some kind of presence in, you will probably feel their influence, because there's going to be a knock on your door and it's going to be asking you, does somebody pay taxes to it?
Now, they don't have publicists. Is it possible to talk to anyone inside the game, that game that they're playing?
No.
No.
Well, you could talk to them, but there's a rule in the Mexican Mafia. You can never admit the existence of the organization, and you can never admit your membership in that organization. Mm-hmm. The only people who do admit to the organization's existence and their membership in it are the people who have dropped out. They call them dropouts. Mm-hmm. And they'll be happy to talk to you all day long if they're in the mood. Most of the information that law enforcement and myself have gotten have come through dropouts, people who have left the organization for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm. What was the hardest part of writing and researching this book?
Probably getting law enforcement to trust me. They were, for years, they had very little tolerance for any kind of reporter or journalist to come in and interview them about what was going on. Mm-hmm. It took a while. They were reluctant to speak. They didn't know where this thing was going to go or how it was going to end. And as it turned out, they turned into fans.
Anything surprise you in your research?
The biggest surprise I got was this ethnic cleansing thing that I uncovered about 8 years ago, 7 or 8 years ago.
What's that?
The Mexican Mafia had issued orders to a lot of the Hispanic street gangs to get rid of the blacks in their neighborhoods.
Wow. Get rid of not just black gangs, but just blacks in their
civilians.
Oh.
With the motivation for that was that they were afraid if blacks started moving into their neighborhood, they would bring gangs along with them into their neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. Those gangs were going to start selling drugs. They were going to compete for the drug trade. So the MA launched what could only be called as a preemptive strike against all blacks in their neighborhoods, and they killed and assaulted a good number of innocent black civilians. And that came as a big surprise to me. I wasn't aware of that until I started investigating these various crimes. And we've had one federal hate crime prosecution in 2006 against the Avenues gang. There's another one was launched just last week. An indictment was unsealed against Florencia 13 for a number of crimes, including assaulting and killing black civilians in their neighborhood.
When a Latino gang battles with a black gang, all other things being equal, what usually happens?
The blacks lose.
Yeah.
They don't have the organization, they don't have the structure,
right,
and they don't have the numbers.
Right. Are you familiar with the scholar Robert Putnam? He wrote the book Bowling Alone.
No.
Oh, well, he wrote this book about the decline of social groups in America. Then he recently researched another one. Anyway, the point was that the more diversity there is in a neighborhood, the less likely people are to trust each other. And
That's an interesting
concept. And the more likely it is to have crime, and less likely people are to come to each other's aid. And it goes completely against the pro-diversity mantra. But it makes perfect. At the most basic level that you're talking about. There's a strong, and in prisons we all know that they divide up on racial grounds.
Well,
right?
Eventually that's where it started. The animosity between blacks and the Mexican Mafia started in the prison system, and it unfortunately manifested itself out on the street with the growth and power of the Mexican Mafia and its influence on the street. And it's a fairly recent development. The Mexican Mafia didn't launch its what I call their vertical integration with the street until 1992. In 1992, they essentially had these giant meetings, these summits on the street in places like Elysian Park and the parking lot at the Coliseum, Orange County and San Diego and so on, where they would assemble 1,000 to 2,000 Hispanic street gang members to come to this park and get the word. And the word was, from now on, you're all Serranos, you're all Southsiders. You owe your allegiance to us. There's not going to be any more drive-by shootings from now on. If you're going to take somebody out, do it face-to-face. And from now on, you're all paying taxes to us. It's a fairly recent phenomenon. It's only about 15 years old. Even though the Mexican Mafia has been in existence since 1957. But by 1992, they had realized that there was a tremendous amount of power they could exert on the street because of the huge street gang presence. With those tens of thousands of soldiers, they decided to step in and become their leaders.
What percentage of the cocaine trade in Southern California would go through them?
I don't really know that. I don't have any numbers on that.
But your guess is that they're the most powerful force in cocaine
Well, they've got the
trafficking.
conduits, yeah. They've got the vast distribution network, yeah.
So, no one comes close to them in that respect,
I don't
right?
think so. No, not in the terms of pure retail outlets on the street. Yeah.
So they probably control, or have a hand in most of it.
I would
Much of
imagine,
it,
yeah.
you'd think.
I would imagine, yeah.
Huh. Okay, great. This is awesome. Thank you.
Terrific.